I've come too far to look back again. There is nothing behind me. All the treasures I used to love have all faded from view. Now I've received His
This message I'm giving, Symbols of Our Heritage, it's almost going to be kind of like a sermon / a Bible study. I gave this about a year ago, 2 years ago, and my father was not feeling good most of this week, and so he asked me Friday if I could give some words on Sunday. So I was going through all my list of things that I spoke about in the past, and I thought Symbols of Our Heritage. And the reason I picked that is because yesterday we had King Charles becoming coronated, the 40th king, I believe, yesterday. And so I thought, well, that would be kind of a neat thing to talk about, the symbols of our heritage, especially with King Charles being coronated King of England. So before I get to that, a little bit of a side note there. I had to add some more pictures to my slide. So that's him yesterday. He was being coronated, and like I said, he is the 40th king to be crowned. And behind him, as you can see, is the Stone of Scone, yes, in the seat. I'll talk a little bit about that before I get to the main thing. So we have him very much continue the biblical prophecy in the Bible. He was coronated, at Westminster Abbey, and that's been the Britain's coronation church since 1066. And King Charles III will be the 40th reigning monarch to be crowned in May of 2023. And this was obviously yesterday when he did that. And so that is the seat that he was crowned on and coronated on. And that rock, and most people here already know this, but there's many people that watch these videos first time that they're really learning about Christian identity. They're learning about our racial connection to those in the Bible of Israel. And so when they hear this and they're watching it, this intrigues them. A lot of times I've never heard of this before. And so it gives them a little bit more information that they can start researching themselves and really understanding the beautiful relationship they have in the Bible, of Israel people in the Bible. And so that stone there has a lot of relevance scripturally. Let me go through my notes here. That is the stone that people will refer to, or not refer to, but will remember that is the stone that Jacob, I should say, let me look at my notes. Like I said, this kind of last minute deal, so I apologize. So, quote in the Bible, and Jacob rose up early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set up for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And he called the name of that place Bethel. And the stone which I have set for a pillar shall be God's house. So this is a very, very special stone going all the way back then. Apostle Paul talks about the stone, the rock of Jesus, rock of Christ. We also have, let me see if I put that in also else. This is from Westminster Abbey's own website. If you go on to Westminster Abbey and you look at the Stone of Scone, I think it's always interesting that people say, well, no, you're just saying that. Well, this is from the official site from Westminster Abbey. And it says, legends abound concerning the Stone of Scone. Tradition identifies it with the one on which Jacob rested his head at Bethel. And Jacob rose early in the morning and took the stone that he had put for his pillows and set it for a pillar and poured oil upon the top of it. And that's from Genesis chapter 28. The legend says that Jacob's sons carried it to Egypt and from thence passed to Spain with King. I'm going to get a little bit closer. Cephalus, the son of Cecrops, the builder of Athens. About 1700 BC, it was said to be in Ireland. Whether it was carried by the Spanish king's son, Simon Brett, on his invasion to the island. There it was placed upon the sacred hill of Tara and called Leofail, the fatal stone, or stone of destiny. Yes. For when the Irish kings were seated on it at coronations, the stone groaned aloud if the claimant was of royal race, or remained silent if it was a pretender. Fergus Moore McEric, the founder of the Scottish monarchy and one of the blood royals of Ireland, received it in Scotland, and Kenneth MacCoppin finally deposited in the monastery of Scone in Perthshire. So that is from the official website of Westminster Abbey about this sacred stone. And now we understand also that Jeremiah and the Bible had carried it all the way to Ireland and continued the biblical prophecy with Zedekiah's daughter, the princess, and then married one of the Irish kings, and continued the biblical scripture that from all the way from King David, that there would be always a descendant sitting on the throne. Handel's coronation anthem, Zadok the Priest, was sung, as it has been at every coronation since 1727. So it was interesting to find out if they were going to continue doing that with King Charles yesterday. And in fact, they did. This is some of the words. Zadok the priest and Nathan the prophet anointed Solomon king, and all the people rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. And all the people rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. Rejoice, rejoice, rejoice. And all the people rejoiced. God save the king. Long live the king. God save the king. May the king live forever. So it continued the biblical prophecy that we are those same people of Israel. So that was just kind of a little bit of a side note. But the main thing is the symbols of our heritage. So we talk about a lot of this is from a book that many of you have read called Symbols of Our Heritage. Talking about the trademarks, the symbols of our people that shows that we are the same people of Israel. And so we're going to start looking at some of the same symbolisms of ancient Israel to those of Europe, showing that we are those same people. We have the same trademarks, the same elements, the same symbols, showing that we are, in fact, those same people. So we're going to start out with the call of Abraham. Genesis 12, 1 through 3 says, quote, "Now the Lord hath said unto Abram, Get thee out of thy country, and from thy kindred, and from thy father's house, unto the land that I will show thee, and I will make of thee a great nation, and I will bless thee, and make thy name great, and thou shalt be a blessing, and I will bless them that bless thee, and curse him that curseth thee. And in thee shall all the families of the earth be blessed." Here we have the record of God going to the partnership with a man with an unconditional, immutable, and irrevocable covenant made between God and Abraham and to his descendants, which means God made a promise specifically to Abraham, to Sarah, and all their generations. And we always say it applies to you, it applies to me, it applies to these children here. Amen. We are under that same covenant. And to me, that's such a blessing to know that we have that. And so that was the beginning of what we call the Abrahamic covenant. Yeah. We then go to Jacob's blessings to his sons. Genesis 49, 1 through 2 says, "And Jacob called his sons and said, Gather yourselves together, that I may tell you that which shall befall you in the last days. Gather yourselves together, and hear, ye sons of Jacob, and hearken unto Israel your father." Amen. So we have Abraham, and then we have, of course, the 12 tribes of Israel. We have the house of Israel, which is the northern tribe. And then we have the other house, house of Judah, which comprised of Judah and Benjamin, the southern tribe. So we're going to look at Reuben, okay? And I'm going to, hopefully, we're not going to be here, well, maybe run a little bit over, but I will try to speed through this a little bit. So we have Reuben. Genesis 49, 3 through 4 says, "Reuben, thou art my firstborn, my might, and the beginning of my strength, the excellency of dignity and the excellency of power. Unstable as water, thou shalt not excel, because thou wentest up to thy father's bed. Yeah. Then defilest thou, it went up to my couch." So there's 2 points with Reuben. One, he was primarily a strong and handsome man, but weak morally. And 2, his nature was changeable, so he would be unstable as water. Yes. So those are the symbols of Israel relating to Reuben. So we have the symbol of a handsome man, and then a water. And so those were the symbols noted to Reuben specifically. We have Simeon, Genesis 34, 25 through 26. "Simeon and Levi took each man his sword, and came upon the city boldly, and slew all the males. And they slew Hamor and Shechem, his son, with the edge of the sword." So the emblem of Simeon became the sword, and later became the capture of the walled city of Shalem by Simeon, as recorded in verse 25, became identified with a city gate. So those were the symbols that Simeon started having that was related to their tribe. Primary emblem was a sword, and another one would be like a castle, a city gate. We have Judah, Jacob's blessings of his son Judah. We see that he is given a special blessing in that from among the descendants is come the future royal house of the Israel nation. He is likened to or related to 4 things. Among his descendants to come, the future royal house of Israel nation, which is Genesis 39, 9 through 11. Quote, "Judah is a lion's whelp for the prey. My son, thou art gone up. As he stopped down, he couched as a lion, and as an old lion, who shall rouse him up? The scepter shall not depart from Judah, nor a lawgiver from between his feet until Shiloh come. Binding his fell unto the vine, and his donkey's colt unto the choice vine. He washed his garments in wine, and his clothes in the blood of grapes." So there's 4 symbols, 4 devices of a lion, 3 lions, a scepter, and a grapevine became the emblems of Judah and his descendants, which is the tribe of Judah. So those were the symbols of Judah, which is a lion, or sometimes it would be 3 lions, the scepter, and the grapes there. Now, I think what's really interesting, if you go back to King Charles, Oh, there it is. Right there. We see lions as the pedestals. On the four corners, there's lions. So I think that's very interesting because, again, that shows a symbolism of Judah. And we are all racially connected to these people. We are all descendants from them. Okay. So let me go back now. Okay. So we have Dan. In considering the blessings of Dan, we see that he is likened to two objects. In verse 17, we read, Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse heels, so that his rider shall fall backward. Dan is likened to one, a serpent, and two, usually a horse, or a horse and rider, the horse usually being white. We have then Naphtali, and I'll show these here in a second. Naphtali, the blessings of Naphtali is a short and promise him nothing. As recorded in verse 21, it says, Naphtali is hind let loose. He giveth goodly words. So Naphtali is here likened to a freed hind, and so his emblem became a leaping hind. This was Naphtali's official emblem as used as an ancient Israel. Over time, there were indications that in the course of time, the female deer was gradually replaced by the male. And then we have Gad. The blessing of Gad, as recorded in verse 19, is also very short. It simply says, Gad, a troop shall overcome him, but he shall overcome at the last. It doesn't really promise him much in a material sense, but it does show a relationship to a troop of horsemen. A group of horsemen would be difficult to portray, so God's emblem was usually shown as the mounted leader of the troop holding aloft a pennant. So those were the tribes of Naphtali and the tribe of Gad. You have like the deer and the horsemen. And then we have Asher. Though short, the blessings of Asher does promise him some pleasant things. As we read in verse 20, quote, out of Asher his bread shall be fat, and he shall yield royal dainties. Royal dainties is uncertain, but in that day it would include wine. It would require a cup of some similar vessel to put it in. From this came Asher's emblem, a covered cup or goblet. Issachar. The blessings given to Issachar is recorded in verse 14. Of him it states, Issachar is a strong donkey, couching down between two burdens. Here we see that the animal to which he is likened thus became the emblem of the tribe of Issachar, a laden donkey. So those were the symbols of Asher, which is the wine cup vessel, and the Issachar, which is the donkey. We have Zebulun. The blessings given to Zebulun is recorded in verse 13. Zebulun shall dwell in the haven of the sea, and shall be for a haven of ships, and his borders shall be unto Zion. Now this is what's really interesting. Although not likened to him to an animal or object, it related him to a haven or harbor, and to ship traffic, and thus to ships. The ships became the emblem of the banner. Strangely enough, the territory of Zebulun, allotted to the tribe in ancient Israel, was inland. It had no harbor, so it would be seen to be more prophetic of some future time after Zebulun had left Palestine. So that was the symbol of Zebulun. Then we have Joseph, Ephraim, and Manasseh. Regarding the blessings of Joseph, his descendants were divided into two tribes, bearing the names of the two sons of Ephraim and Manasseh. Thus the blessings to Joseph was in part inherited by both of these tribes and in part divided between them. In verse 22 through 24 it says, quote, Joseph is a fruitful bow, even a fruitful bow by a well, these branches to run over the wall. The archers have sorely grieved him and shot at him and hated him. But his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. Joseph is here likened to a bow or branch, which other statements in the Bible referring Israel to an olive tree or an olive branch. In the next verse, enemy archers are said to shoot at Joseph, and there's an implied relationship between him and some arrows. Later in his blessings of the descendants of Joseph, Moses said, quote, his glory is like the firstling of his bullock, and his horns are like the horns of unicorns. With them he shall push the people together to the ends of the earth, and they are like the 10,000s of Ephraim and the thousands of Manasseh. Here, Joseph is likened to an ox and to a unicorn. We should also note that the repetition of and the emphasis of the word horns. Joseph is likened to a relationship to an ox, a unicorn, and horn. He's also likened to an olive branch and some arrows. The ox, the unicorn, and the horn becoming the emblems of the tribe of Ephraim. The olive branch and bundles of arrows, the emblems of the tribe of Manasseh. So, those became the primary emblems of Manasseh. Was the arrows. The second arrow was the arrows, and then, of course, the tree branch or the olive. And then Ephraim, we have the bull, and then we have the unicorn. That was then the horn. Bullhorn was another symbol of Ephraim. Then we have Benjamin, the youngest son of Jacob, as recorded in verse 27. Benjamin shall raven as a wolf. In the morning he shall devour the prey, and at night he shall divide the spoil. He is likened as a wolf, and the wolf became the emblem of Benjamin. So we have the tribe of Benjamin there. So what's interesting is, as we all know, that our people, like any other people, starts having symbols. You look at, let's say, the state of Arkansas. You'll look at the flag, and they will put something in there with the state of Arkansas that is their connection to the people of Arkansas. Look at Tennessee. You could look at Idaho. All these flags have symbols related to maybe the founders of that state or something unique. And so the same thing is with Israel. We have all these, the tribes of Israel, and each family started having symbols associated with that specific family. And so they then had that with them from Israel all the way up until modern time. So we're going to now start going to our people going to Europe. So we know that the northern tribe was captured by the Syrians, and they came and were carried away in 721 BC, northward between the Black and the Caspian Seas. About 100 years later, the Syrian Empire was destroyed by Babylon, and the freed Israelites turned northward and westward into Europe. The kingdom of Judah was scattered and conquered by the Babylonians and sent to Babylon and Persia. About 70 years later, a small remnant returned to Palestine and rebuilt Jerusalem. The Jewish Babylon Talmud began. The 10 tribes, the vast majority of the Judah, went into Europe. So when we talk about the Bible, we know from recorded history that the 10 tribes of Israel basically were scattered into Europe, and the majority of the tribe of Judah, just a very, very small amount, came back. So when people say that you have no racial connection to Israel, you're no racial connection, either they're just dumb, they're ignorant, or they're lying to you, because they may not know. They have focused so much in the Bible that Jews are the same as the tribe of Judah, and that's all of Israel. And we know the recorded history that says that all our people, the vast majority of those people, went into Europe. Flavius Josephus, who was an ancient recorder in history, said that the northern tribes of Israel went into Europe, were scattered in Europe, and they were as the amount of the sands of the sea. So there was just millions of Israelites went into Europe. They went through the Caucasian Mountains, the Darien Pass. That's why we're called Caucasians. And people didn't just call us Caucasians for no reason. It's because we were referred to the people of Israel that went through the Darien Pass, the Caucasian Mountains, and then went throughout Europe. So that's why you're called Caucasians. And as our people went through Europe, they continued on with those symbols of Israel. They didn't just forget about them and say, well, we're going to just get rid of them. It was part of them. It was connected to them. That's something they identified with. Carry that biblical prophecies that we just read about each family, why they were being called those, or why they were specifically called those families, and why those symbols were related to each of those tribes. It was a significant reason. So there is a map there. Many of you may not see, but those that will watch us on social media, they will be able to see that. That's a map that shows our people, the Israelites, going and being captured by Assyrian and Babylon, and then they were going out into Europe. Went into all throughout Europe. England, Ireland, Scotland, Greece, Athens. We were all the same people. So when Apostle Paul and Peter, when they went to Spain and England, they were talking to their own people, their same racially connected people. When we look at in Egypt, before the Exodus with Moses, 1,500 years before that, there was a massive amount of people, of Israelites, that left Egypt. Because at that time, Egypt was starting to put pressure upon the Israelites. And so a huge amount of people left left Egypt. And so we recorded history that they went into Ireland and settled there 1,500 years, even before Exodus, that we read in the Bible. So our people have always been moving. They've always migrated. They've always were going to other lands, conquering other lands, establishing civilization. That's the nature of our people. So, searching for a people or group related to these emblems of ancient Israel. Like I said, our people, when we've had those symbols and from ancient Israel, and we went into Europe, they didn't just throw them away. They continued on with those same symbols. They may have not known why they had those same symbols, but they knew there was something connected there. They were racially connected to the people in Israel. So, when we look at these same symbols of Israel going into Europe, we will see how those symbols continued on, establishing different parts of Europe. So we look at the tribes of Reuben, okay? And again, some of that you may not be able to see from where you're sitting, but those people that's listening to us on the internet, you'll be able to see that because we will have that up there. So I'm going to step to the computer because I can't see over there. So as you can see, the tribes of Reuben obviously was connected with the handsome man, the water. Those were the symbols of Reuben. And so if you look at some of these places, these are places in Europe that has those same symbols. And I cannot read it because if I leave here, they cannot be recorded in my voice. But hopefully you can see that there are some symbols there of, I think, Netherlands, Denmark, of the man, the water, which are the same exact symbols that we saw regarding Reuben that was identified in the Bible. Those are some more symbols. Netherlands, those are some cities in the Netherlands. I believe Drummond. And so those are some symbols, again, of Reuben, carrying on that same symbol as in Israel. We see the tribe of Simeon, okay? And again, these are symbols that we have saw earlier regarding Israel and the specific families and them carrying it on into Europe. So these are all symbols that you see as of today, symbols that we see in Europe. And from where I'm standing, so everyone knows from where I'm standing, there's a glare, so I cannot see some of those words. Hopefully you can. But a lot of them are from Denmark and Welsh and London, particular cities in the Netherlands. So all of these are symbols of these particular tribes of Israel that went into Europe. Again, you see the castle and the gateway. So those again are the symbols. I believe it was Simeon. I may be wrong, but those are again continuing on the symbols of that particular family. The tribe of Judah. So again, the tribe of Judah, had a sword, and sometimes these tribes, the symbols would intermix with each other because of the fact that you had different tribes that would go into different areas. And so sometimes they would incorporate other tribes. So for example, on the middle corner or upper middle picture, you have the castle, you have the water and the sword. So they were identifying with different tribes. On the top right is, I believe it's a bullhorn, which was the tribe, a symbol of Judah. And down at the very end are the different cities, locations of these symbols. And again, that is some more towns and Bulmia, I believe, McLaughlin. So those are some more symbols that were related to ancient Israel that our people continue to carry on when they went to Europe and they settled and they continue on with those same symbols. It's kind of the same as if you're in Arkansas, you have the Razorbacks, and so that's the kind of symbol. And so you carried on that. So if you're wearing a T-shirt of the Razorbacks and you're going on vacation to Florida, you have that symbol because I'm identifying as Arkansas Razorback. It's kind of the same thing as that. That was a symbol that they reflected and they related to those of Israel. So those are the lines of Judah that those particular parts in Europe. I believe it's Denmark, Sandwich, not Sandwich they eat, but the actual town Sandwich. And in England, we got the tribes of Dan. Dan was related to the horse, and so that was a symbol of Dan was with the horse. And the bottom picture is actually a horse that was carved in the side of a mountain with rocks, and again, it's symbolism. It's very, very important. I think it's very important for us to, we read stuff in the Bible, and sometimes we disconnect with the people in Israel because it's like so far away, in history. And I think to me it's always reassuring to know that looking at symbolism, it really gives me encouragement and hope to know that, we can actually tangible look at things that knows that we are those same people. We are connected to those same people. And symbolisms are so important. That's why our enemies today want us to have no symbols, no monuments whatsoever. That's why they want us to destroy monuments that pay homage to the Southern Confederacy. Or they want to destroy monuments related to Christopher Columbus, our Christian forefathers. They want us to destroy any monuments that we can reflect and have some type of connection with. And so our enemies do not want us to do that. And so that's why I think it's very important that we can look at Europe right now and look to see symbols that actually gives us that racial connection to Israel. So you got the tribe of Dan. Again, the tribe of Dan, you had the snake. That was a symbolism of the tribe of Dan. I think it's pretty interesting that with the early American Revolution, A lot of the symbols here in America was regarding snakes. We have the serpents. Don't tread on me. Unite or divided, we fall. With the snake all split up. So again, that connection with the tribe of Dan continued on even through America Revolution. Also, the tribe of Dan the tribe of Asher had the cup, for the wine, the dainties. So those again are some symbols in different parts of Europe. Tribe of Zebulun, the ships, and at that time, as we read earlier, at that point they were inland. There was no ships, so it was kind of weird that they would be identified as ships. But we know that was more prophetic, that they would be seafarers. And so those are symbols of ships. We look at Ephraim. Okay, again we have, and again, a lot of different connections that overlap with each other. We have the castle, we have the lion, we have the ship. So a lot of these interlap with each other. We have the bullock or the cow, the bull. So those are, again, symbols related to Ephraim. We have the unicorn. So there's unicorns that we see on the very top. Again, at the very lower part, you can see the different towns and cities that has those same symbols of that particular tribe. So this I can see because it's a lot bigger. You got the right-hand corner. You have Denmark, which has the bullhorn. The middle, the Netherlands. You have the bullhorn and the lion. And the very left, I believe, Netherlands again, which has the gate of the castle and the bullhorn. Again, different parts of Netherlands, of Denmark, where our people settled and continued on with that same symbolism as in the particular family in Europe. Okay, so Manitou. So we have obviously the eagle, but then we have the arrows. And the arrows was part of the symbolism there. And so again, arrows, they didn't decide, hey, let's just use arrows for a symbolism because that's really neat, having an arrow. It was a reason why they used arrows. They were following that continuing the family history of that particular tribe. So, we have the breastplate of the high priest that we read in the Bible, that the high priest would have the breastplate that would have all the stones of each tribe, the 12 tribes. That was what the high priest had wore. And so we had the arms of Westminster. The breastplate in the very middle, that is the breastplate that they adopted and they used, carrying on that connection of the high priest in Israel. And then, of course, we have the lions on each side, which is, again, the continuation of the symbolism of Judah. So that is the breastplate on the very bottom, the breastplate of the high priest. And we can look at the new arms of Westminster that was adopted in 1964, but they adopted it from the continuation of the old city of Westminster. That continued to have that breastplate. So, why did they adopt the high priest breastplate? Did they just decide, hey, that's pretty cool, let's just do that? No, they were continuing on that family connection, that family heritage of Israel, because they were the same people. We are those same people. And so they continued on. So another thing is the camp of Mount Sinai. So one of the things that we read in the Bible, as you can read there, is the pillar of cloud that continued on with Israel wherever they went for 40 years. There was a pillar of cloud. It was a symbolism that was identified only to Israel. And it was an actual pillar of cloud. And at night, it was fire. And so it was that continuation of that pillar of cloud that, again, was only identified with Israel. So when Israel's enemies saw Israel and saw them coming, it was that pillar. And they continued on. So it was, again, identified only to Israel. So when we look at the Great Seal of America, we can see obviously the bald eagle, but we have the olive branch, and we have the arrows. There's 13 arrows, so there's 13 tribes. And then we have the branches, the olive branches. They have 13 of those. And at the very top, you can see the pillars, the cloud. Again, a reflection of the continuation of the history of Israel. Symbolisms are very, very important. It's not something they decide, man, that's a cool bird. Let's just put some arrows in there. Or let's put a tree branch in there. That's really neat. Or let's just put some random stars in there. Everything's reflected and has symbolism. They meant something. There was identification to them. And so we look at the 13 stars, the 13 tribes of Israel, 13 original states in the United States, the 13 branches, the 13 arrows, the pillars of the cloud of pillars on the very top. It was very important. It had meaning behind it. This was one of the symbols that was going to be used for the United States. And I may be wrong, but I believe this was going to be the official symbol, but it was voted out by like just a few votes.
One vote.
One vote. That's right. And so this would have been the actual symbol of the United States, which shows Moses crossing the Red Sea. You got the Egypt, and you got the pillar of the cloud pillar. And our Israel ancestors crossing the Red Sea. And this is the actual manuscript of the reason they were going to have that. So Moses, standing on the shore and extending his hand over the sea, thereby causing the same to overwhelm Pharaoh, who is sitting in an open chariot, a crown on his head, and a sword in his hand, raised from a pillar of fire in the cloud, reaching to Moses, express that he has acts by command of the deity. Motto, rebellion to tyrants is obedient to God. And so those were what they were writing out as far as what that symbolism was. And again, it shows a connection of our people to those of Israel. So when we look at these symbols in Europe and in America, these mean something. They're tangible. They're something that should give us hope and encouragement. Know that we are those same people. We don't just, not only do we read the Bible, which should be our main source of strength, but not only in reading the Bible, we can see tangible proof of the symbolism all throughout Europe, all throughout America, showing that continual connection that we have with Israel. And that should give us hope. It should give us inspiration to know that we don't believe something just because someone said it. We do. We believe it because we can see historical facts, symbolism of those same people in Israel. So that should give us hope. So I am going to end with that. So let's pray, and then we're going to get some food. Dear Heavenly Father, again, thank you for this day. We're thankful for the symbols that you have given us throughout ancient Israel, all the way through modern day. We can see the continual path of migration of Israel going to Europe and then to the United States and Canada and all wherever our white people settled. We can continue to see these symbols, knowing that you are affirming that we are those same people. And that should give us hope. That should give us, inspiration to know that we can, every day, we can spread this great news of revival to our brothers and sisters and teach them the truth, knowing that they have something to be proud of. They have something to be proud of who they are and their racial connection to Israel. We just ask that you'll just continue to bless us, that every day in all our efforts, that whatever we do, we can just remain faithful to you during these dark days. We're thankful that we have a God that we always can rely on, that never will turn his back towards us, that we always can look towards to give us the strength and give us that ability to just continue on every single day to reach our people. Again, thank you for everything you do for us and everything you provide for us. We ask all this in your holy and precious name.
My feet have walked through the valley. I've climbed mountains, crossed rivers, desert places I've known. But God's kingdom is now my home, with the redeemed rejoicing. Sin and sorrow are conquered. I've come too far to look back. But God's kingdom is now my home, with the redeemed rejoicing. Now the grave has no victory. I've come too far to look back, too far to look back. Thank you so much.